Hello and welcome to the Morning Skate Podcast. I am your host, DJ Mitchell, making my triumphant return, much anticipated return back to the podcast. Here with Matt Moody. Matt, how is it going on this wonderful Wednesday night as we record?
Yeah, we had a great time Monday evening. Just bringing out two absolute heavy hitters. And now the people, well, they get DJ back, but they
Dude, all
also,
right. No.
now, however, they also do not get us literally clowning a 1% owned Columbus Blue Jackets who wound up nuking the slate anyway. Yeah, I will say for all of the, all the sharp shit on that show, we had no idea where ownership was going to go. I don't really think that was our fault. It was a particularly weird slate with the pricing as we're trying to adjust to it. But my God, like, uh, yeah, literally, like nobody played Marchenko. It was just like, oh, like he's a really good value, but like he's going to get jammed, right? And then you look at projections, and he's like got a projection below like, God, I found a couple names that was like totally egregious, and it was just like, oh, he's not projecting well at all. So like it was pretty clear he wasn't getting owned. I didn't get there in game stacks or anything, so like whatever. But yeah, I had a pretty dusted night in DFS. Went 0 for 4 on cashing my teams, and we'll try and get back on the horse on Thursday.
Yeah, but I don't need to review too much. Really, the thing is I haven't even victory lapped my taking down of the Saturday before the break slate, where I won like 7,000 and change. And as a noted recent winner comparatively to you of a slate, like I haven't even had my chance yet. So we're gonna sit here and be like, oh man, everyone was, we had all three big winners on, and I'm like, yeah. I mean, you win basketball, but like in the sports that people care about, I kind of feel like I should have been me. Unfortunately, I was on the ice myself, scoring a goal. Bring the boys back together, get the win in overtime. I mean, everyone was watching that, I thought, then wasn't actually focusing. But I will say, as a last note, we did get one of our higher viewerships of the season. And I do really think like it's a good idea to change it up once in a while. I think people really do appreciate it. So I will also give a big thanks to Matt and Mike for jumping in, because it really was such a fun show. I really enjoyed watching it.
Yeah, no, we had a good time. So turns out it's nice being on a 3-man show, not just because on a 2-man show half the time you're not listening to me, but also like it's just so easy to go like, oh, now you talk, and then like if you don't have anything to say, it just kind of dies on the vine. But like with two other people there, of course they're going to keep talking. And yeah, we went on for a long ass time, but I don't know, it made my life a lot easier, I feel like. So I don't know, we'll see. It just harkens back to the days of Doug on the pod, where he would just read out his model for a few seconds while we took a sip of water and breathed.
Well, it's like you're saying, I mean, when two people are kind of constantly preparing what they might say, because it's almost like, there's two kids in class, someone's getting called on. You kind of have to be ready. It kind of just feels like the flow is never going to stop flowing. But yeah, I mean, it went on long, but I actually pulled up the YouTube and watched the entire thing on YouTube to like really follow along as much as I could. Because like when really smart people get together and join that, weirdly enough, they decided to join you. You want to listen. So it was a really good show. It was also very funny. I mean, there was plenty of mentions of me, so I was still there in spirit. My favorite was DJ was right, and people were mad about it. I mean,
and then they go out and shut out the fucking Carolina Hurricanes.
I know. You can't poke the bear. If you go out there and you start saying DJ's right about something, you've gone too far. Stop. No. Go back. But yeah, no, we don't need to relive the slate too much. I did find plenty of things interesting. I'm just pulling up the $44 right now, and like the highest owned player was Matt Boldley, who was paired with Rossi, 21, almost 22% to 15, almost 16%. Two of the higher owned guys that didn't get there, that everyone was on against Detroit, which I found a little bit weird. And I mean, again, I did take a look at Columbus, but I thought like they're going to get some level of ownership, and I didn't really like the way they looked in any of the builds. No one played them, like, right? Like, so it's weird how like even if you thought you knew ownership, I think you can't right now because everything has changed so dramatically. It was very weird, right? Look at the top ownership players. It was Boldy, Hayton, Point, Kucherov. I did not see that coming. Hinostroza, I did see, that made sense. Rossi, Jackson, Lacombe, who we're going to talk about. And it just kind of felt like this like, if you would have told me Point, Kucherov were going to be the guys people would have jammed into, and play these cheap, I would have been, it felt really weird to me. Everything about the slate. So we have 12 games though. So I don't know. We can kind of like, as we go, talk about probably some of that stuff, but I just think more than anything, like the highest owned player is 21%. Ownership's going to be even more spread than ever with the changing in pricing. And we'll see if there's anything that kind of stands out as a massive ownership spot. The player that was the highest points on Tuesday's slate that only came in at like 2 or 3% was David Pastrnak. He is on the first game if you want to get into the Islanders at the Boston Bruins.
What a segue.
Good segue.
Sure. I did not test the screen sharing, so hopefully we don't have one of those issues.
David Pastrnak, by the way, threw up the 37 bomb at 2.6%, the 44. Maybe it was a little bit, I think it was a little bit higher in the $15, the main one, but just throwing up the 37 bomb when no one plays him. That was certainly the game stack you would have wanted if you did spend up. No one really did it. I mean, although Matthews didn't really get there. It was an interesting one. So Matt, take us into game one.
Yeah, so we have the Islanders heading into Boston. The Islanders had a pretty good game on paper against the Rangers. I didn't catch a ton of it, but I saw some clear sight analytics and whatnot that were just kind of like, they didn't have that great a chance, as Igor had a pretty easy night at the office for having to make, I think, 36 saves in a 5-1 Rangers win. So I think that's being overstated a little bit. Of course, Boston, epic collapse against Toronto. Usually you don't, you usually hear that the other way. So like, I don't know how much I buy the matchup here for the Islanders, but we'll get into that in just a second. Looking across the slate, we don't see too many can't miss matchups. We have Florida against a struggling Edmonton side. We have Vegas taking on the sinking ship of the ship's already hit rock bottom for the Chicago. And then I guess we have Utah and Minnesota, but we'll talk about that game later on, where I don't think the Utah side there is going to be immensely popular by any stretch.
Yeah.
So it's
Matt,
not
really
like
quickly, just after the break, we could get some new listeners. Is there anything you just want to quickly mention about this sheet in case anyone's looking at it for the first time? Like, I don't know what I'm looking at all. Just maybe like the quickest of like.
You think you think the Four Nations face-off is bringing donkeys into the DFS YouTube streams?
Maybe. Well, what else could possibly explain more viewers on Tuesday when I wasn't there?
That is true. There's absolutely no other explanation. All right. The rainbow sheet gets posted in the Discord pretty much every day. I don't think I've missed a day with hockey in quite some time. But basically it just looks in the last 10 games. I think I've talked about this, Matt, on the show. There's a decay factor involved. So like the most recent game has slightly more weight than the 10th most recent game, but all 10 games are considered. And it looks into expected goal creation, shot attempt creation, and actual goal creation at 5-on-5. Importantly there, power play is not factored in. And it just compares your output to the opponent average. So if somehow you were playing Chicago 10 times in a row and did really well, you wouldn't get nearly as rewarded for that as if you had to play, Florida 10 times in a row. So that's just sort of the what's going on here. The green is good, the blue is good, and the red is bad. Stay away from red. That's what you're looking at. So there's also a write-up of this in my newsletter. So if you really want to dive into it, I wrote about it in my newsletter. I think every time I link to it. So you can check it out there. Anyway, that's the matchup for Islanders Boston. Nope, go ahead.
No, I was going to just bring us right back into the game and say, like, the game, I think kind of justifiably looks decent to play in DFS. Really, I mean, again, if you're listening for the betting as well, I think there's betting angles as well in this game. Like, the pace doesn't seem bad. The defense feels, again, like if you would have told me at the beginning of the season that these were going to be the decors for both teams, I would have told you that was impossible because Tony DeAngelo's in Russia. But furthermore, I would have been like, who's on Boston now? There's a guy named Michael Callahan. Like, it's kind of like this very sloppy, messy defense situation when really good goaltending, which I wonder if people will stay away in DFS. I wonder if the market isn't too crazy as far as like what shots are going to look like. But I'm interested. Now, the Islanders have been a popular play in DFS because of how cheap they've been. And with correlation being very difficult to come by as far as getting a cohesive lineup together, I don't know how much it'll get past people, but do you think that the Islanders are, one, a good play, and B, going to see ownership and maybe keep you in or out on them and whatever you want to kind of go from there?
I think on the road, we're not likely to see much Islander stuff. I'm checking last slate to see how they fared against the Rangers ownership wise. I didn't think there was any. I don't think there was any concern there.
Yeah, I mean, again, like I would just say in the last 5 slates, it's every time I turn over the deck and I see like 12%, even whatever Horvat and I mean like Duclair for a minute there made sense, but like it's sort of like whoa, okay, I guess like that Duclair price really is factoring in quite a bit for everyone to kind of boost them up, and like I don't know, 12-game slate, I don't think it matters that much. They are still kind of rolling 4 lines more or less. They're still coached by one of the worst coaches in the NHL. I'm probably not going to get there myself, but I'll let you go.
They were about 5% last slate, which doesn't bother me whatsoever. We talked about it with Duclair. He was coming off of a 1-goal, 4-shot on goal game. I think he just had the 1 shot against the Rangers, but he's been dealing with an injury all year. He said he felt good. Coming out of the break, it makes sense having 2 weeks off when you've been dealing with an injury like he has. Like, I think Duclair is a guy that I do want to buy on. But the clear angle here for this game is Noah Dobson should return. It looks like Adam Pelech and Dobson is going to be a pair, which Pelech's fallen off certainly this season. He's not been nearly as good. Like, there was a time where Adam Pelech and Jacob Slavin were like in a very similar echelon as far as the way people talked about them. Now, with this recent tournament, Slavin's taken off to a whole nother stratosphere, but like Pelech still could have something, and maybe Noah Dobson being there, like that means they're an actual top pair. I have no guarantee though that Dobson even goes to the top power play. It's just a reasonable assumption, I think, that he does. And for 6,400, it's not like he himself is a great play. But if we're looking at a top power play of Lee, Horvat, Duclair, Pajot, and Dobson, I could certainly see myself playing a 3-man or a 4-man stack, mixing and matching across the power plays there. The matchup's fine. Any interest in depth pieces on the Islanders?
I'm going to say no, but I honestly no as far as depth because whatever, but like Nelson Palmieri, I think is at least a pivot I would not call you an idiot entirely for, but it just feels unnecessary. I just think in reality, I'm just not going to end up getting there. Just not cheap enough and whatever. The Boston side also interesting. I like I said, Pastrnak nuked last late. Sorokin might scare some people off. I think the saving grace with Pastrnak is he has decent correlation with Morgan Geekie, who's been very, very good. The problem is he's not 3K anymore. He's 5,500, which is probably fair. It isn't a savings anymore. Mason Lohrei also great. Like when he's, when the game dictates Mason Lohrei being involved, he's always been useful. And now the game almost has to because they legitimately don't have another defenseman that can play his role or really play that well at all. So it all feels cohesive. I like it a lot. I don't know if I'm going to end up having it just because, again, like Pastrnak, Geekie, Lohrei, not that cheap. It used to be cheaper. Maybe I play it. It's going to be in consideration.
Yeah, I'm debating throwing ownership in the rainbow sheet out the window here. Against Toronto, I didn't do it, and I sort of lamented that in the Discord where it's just a matter of when the hangover of this break sort of shakes off because, the slates have been a disaster since we've returned from the break. There's been, 7-goal spots left and right. And we see that at the beginning of every NHL season. Teams are playing in the shape, it's just the way hockey works. You can't bring your A game, 82 games a year, and certainly not off of a 2-week break, you're going to see a lot of lackadaisical stuff going on. And so when the rainbow sheets are like, yeah, whatever, nonsense is going to happen, I think more often this week than any other time during the year. So that's sort of my thought is like, where does that end? Does it end today? Does it end over the weekend? Does it end next week? Like, like when are we sort of looking at normalcy again? Because on its face, Geeky, Pasternak, and Lowry is a phenomenal stack. You compare the pricings around the slate, and you go, yeah, that is an obscene level of value because Pasta is very affordable. He is the most expensive player, but like he's also probably the best player. Certainly, if not the best, maybe 2 or 3 on the list for fantasy. Geeky's got that role promotion to the top power play, which he blew up last slate. I think he had 6 shots on goal. And then Lowry, you talked about as well. Like that's a player that we like.
Yeah.
So
double
value,
bonus 2 points last slate, and
yes.
the chasers are going to chase, which is a bit of a concern. But again, like
Well,
you're saying,
that's the thing.
Yeah.
Like I don't know that that's true. I mean, we saw Columbus
Yeah.
go off at 1% last slate. Like,
Yeah.
like if you're chasing points, why not get on your running shoes to chase Columbus? Like, it's just a matter of what the projections are going to look like. And in a matchup with the Islanders, maybe that just stays low enough to where Passa's, his 12, 13%, but like, it just doesn't matter. Like, that's sort of where I think I'm coming down on it, where as long as it's not like 38% Pasternak, you're totally fine to just play good players. Like that's never going to be a bad thing.
I'm going to write that down. You said play good players?
Yeah, no, you don't get fancy. You don't play Owen Tippett, things like that. DJ tried to make Owen Tippett the header or whatever.
We're not there yet. You can't just jump there. I was going to say if I could find a line, but yeah, Morgan Geeky for shots. I mean, Lowry for a point. Like that was plus money last slate. That was one of the things I kind of kicked myself for not taking with Lowry plus like 115 or plus 120 for a point last slate. I was just being soft and not taking the best value when it was there. It's still not listed. So we'll take a look, that could be something to jump on for sure. Cause like, I think those are the 2 guys you want to bet through. Like Pasternak's going to be Pasternak on whatever. And like, not fun to bet, but like those 2 guys will not be priced into their role at all. So definitely the 2 guys from this game, from a betting perspective, if you're not playing in the DFS, I'd still consider. I can move on if you're ready. First up, Tim, good to see you. Brad, yeah, I know. I like the other guys better too, but unfortunately they can't do every slate. They're too busy winning GPPs to be on this podcast every night. They gotta sweat it out and probably make some changes. Is there something going on with the game or something that you're?
Yep. Drew Doughty's not on the ice. So I was checking
Brent
Clark and Jordan Spence, but
I can get us into the next game if you'd like to do anything. I mean, the next game is another good one.
The only other thing I had on Boston was Trent Frederick left, and so that's a 3rd line role open and a power play job. Oliver Wahlstrom could be there. 2,900 for Wahlstrom. I mean, whatever. Pricing again, like there's just not many punts, so Wahlstrom I think is totally viable if he winds up drawing in there. I have no idea if that's what happens, but they did say no update on Frederick, so I suspect that Wahlstrom's a pretty easy 1-for-1 replacement. Anyway, yeah, San Jose, Montreal.
Yeah, another game that looks really good on paper for really Montreal. Although, as we said, like they have been very bad defensively, and then they shut out Carolina. Is that going to continue or not? They take on a San Jose team that is another like really easy mid-range situation with Eklund, Celebrini, Toffoli. Wallman is, you have to say, like, you have to consider because of his floor stats. 5,500 is a hefty price, but he's probably left off more often than considered. I'm tentatively interested. I think Celebrini is kind of taking that step towards, we're going to kick ourselves for not playing him a little bit more when he's at this price. But at 6,900, you start to feel a little bit more of a squeeze. The minutes are there, the rates are there, obviously the pedigree being the number 1 overall pick. And I think just further boosted by playing with very top end talent. Eklund is a guy that we absolutely covet. San Jose is, other than that, an absolute dumpster fire. I have no consideration for really anybody else. I mean, Will Smith was interesting when he was minimum salary at $5K. It's just an absolute no-go, and there's nothing else here to really consider. But Any thoughts on the first line playing them? I don't think they'll be heavily played, and I'm at least going to give it a look.
Yeah. On the San Jose side, the pricing is like it's fine. Like again, it's a new normal we're sort of adjusting to, but like it also doesn't really excite me. Having to pay 17.7 for the Sharks is just like whatever. Wallman, like yeah, it's fine, but like yeah, it just doesn't really get the juices flowing for me. So like I would be much more interested. I've been looking at like the Sharks shot props and whatnot, and like they literally project to get like 18 shots on goal per night when you look at their star players. It's like 1.5 for everyone besides Celebrini. I don't necessarily think that's like a total alpha jam against Montreal, given they held Carolina to 20 shots. Like I don't know what the hell that was. Maybe it says more about Carolina. We'll get to them. But like it's also just like I'm not interested in DFS. So if I miss out on Celebrini at 6,900 and he's 8,800 for the rest of his career, so be it. But I think I'm more interested in the Montreal side for sure.
I guess we're just going to ignore Tyler Toffoli revenge narrative. But I will just say, if you are playing Celebrini and you're like, do I take Celebrini? I would definitely play Toffoli. Like, not because of that, but like, 6 or more attempts, like 6 attempt range over the last 10. Like, he's been very, very involved. On the other side, the rates haven't been as what I think I would have liked them to be for Cole Caulfield, but the goals have certainly been there. They've been efficient. They've been, I would say, on the season, much better than anyone would have anticipated. There's been good stretches. There's been bad stretches. There's a top line that's fully correlated, that's not that expensive, and obviously a good matchup. I mean, no one's going to sit here and tell you that San Jose is a juggernaut defensively. And even if the thing is, they really don't have anything that can match that top line. So it's a good play. It's not that expensive. You could leave off Slafkovsky, who's been not much as far as getting you a ton of fantasy. And Lane Hudson is adequately priced, maybe getting towards too expensive. Any thoughts first off on kind of the top end pieces in this Montreal team before we talk about punts?
Yeah, no, I mean Montreal, like we just talked about the top line of San Jose. I mean Montreal is 500 more for Caulfield Suzuki's. Like, I mean, that to me just feels like a much better pivot. I get that there's not a huge difference as far as, or I guess
Foreman's the same price, I think, or cheaper. It's cheaper if you include Lane instead of Wallman.
Yeah,
cheaper.
Yeah, true.
Like, in reality, like if you were going to go all the way in, which again I think is my angle here, is like, even though Lane has been great, like I'd rather just go all the fucking way, like play all 4 of them, play all 5 of them. Like
shit, yeah, that's like line 8 definitely stands out in that regard too. The expected are just simply not there, but I don't know.
It's 3 shot attempts a game, and they're all normally decent chance. Like it's just like, does he score on 2 of them or not? And like, so it is what it is.
It's pretty rare that you're going to get like an 8 from line A. You're going to get 16. You're going to get like 3. Like so, at 5K, I'm willing to take a gamble there. I would be fine too if Line A Hudson don't even need to play these top tier guys. Like, yeah, Slavkovsky's been better, but he's certainly not a player that you're like, yeah, this guy's a can't miss DFS asset. He's more expensive than Line A. And obviously Caulfield Suzuki, you get up to some true studs, like for 12.9K, you could fit in 2 really good players. So I would be fine with a Line A Hudson mini stack as well, if it came down to it. Further down the lineup, we did see Owen Beck step up into that second line center role. That's not really super interesting to me. Beck's certainly a good prospect. I mean, he's a recent late first rounder. It's right here, 33rd overall, so 2022 early second rounder. But he's certainly a good prospect. He doesn't really stand out, and he's sort of like, yeah, this guy's going to be a fantasy monster. So like, I don't know. It depends on what the projections are again. Because against the Sharks, his total is going to be massive. Their team total is going to be high. Like, I think all these punts are going to get attention because we are starving for values. But if they don't, then by all means, Beck makes sense. Brendan Gallagher could certainly make sense for 4K. Heineman has been a guy that I'm I'm personally biased toward. He's just a gigantic human who shoots rockets. That is always going to be
Isn't
right
he
up
the
my
guy that got
alley.
hit by the car?
Yes, and he
Yeah,
has
yeah. I
a
mean, like
magnetic field
hit
around
by
him.
the car narrative. No one's talking about it.
Yeah. Well, next time they play Utah, that'll be the narrative to take some revenge on the city of Salt Lake City. That's city of Salt
Wait.
Lake. Can you say that? I don't know. Uh,
Uh, Literally
let's move on.
allowed.
Let's move on. By the way, if you are live, not on the Discord, it does look like both Dowdy and Quinn Hughes are going to be out. They were projecting in earlier, so just keep an eye on that. It looks pretty concrete that neither will play, but again, I'm on this show, so I'm just sort of moving on from it at this point. But keep an eye out for that. And if they do post Brant Clark lines, we are all in. So just keep an eye out for that. Anyway, on to Columbus and Detroit. Of course, this is the warm up for Detroit at Columbus in the Horseshoe. So I guess a fun little home and home there between two teams who are now extremely relevant for playoff purposes. So from a matchup standpoint, this matchup looks pretty solid, right up there among the best on the slate. We have Florida and Edmonton as a clear best matchup, but that's mostly dominated by Florida just looking so good. We'll talk about that. But the matchup itself looks pretty good. There's no clear angle as far as which side you would take. So I think both teams are pretty good options here. We're getting Fantilli Marchenko right around the same price, if not exactly the same price as they were against Dallas. On the road, maybe that matters. Maybe just not playing Dallas means they get donkey ownership again. Zach Werenski's price continues to fall now. I mean, he was 9K a couple weeks ago, and he's like, yeah, I'm just going to get points every game and take a million shots and block shots too. And DraftKings is like, all right, we're just going to keep moving you down. So, insert Matt playing the donkey hee-haw clip here because it very well could be that this is the chalk of all chalk and that you don't want to pay, $26,000 for the Columbus Blue Jackets. But I certainly don't hate the idea. I mean, this top line is still awesome. I would definitely leave off Voronkov. He's the lagging wheel of the bunch for sure. Fantilli, Marchenko, Werenski are the key targets here. Any further thoughts on Columbus?
No. I mean, I feel like I am leaning the Columbus side over anything else, and I'm certainly looking at the top line because it is not that much more expensive than what is going to be a lot chalkier at Montreal, and like I think Boston as well. Yeah, it's kind of probably be a little more expensive than the Boston 3-man you'd think, especially because if you play Werenski. I do like it a good bit, but as you're kind of alluding to, like how much less chalky is it going to be than other things, and is it actually that much better of a play? Like I think at the end of the day, I just respect Detroit maybe a little bit more as of late. Like I was very much a fader on them being good. I still don't think they're that good, but I do I've always been like, defensively, they're not a nightmare. Like they just are boring. And like, they've just been ultra efficient on the power play, and they've kept teams at bay enough that their goaltending leagues haven't shown too many warts. I think it's a fine play. I think it should be in consideration, but I'm probably fading this game entirely because I do think people will. No, I mean, look at last night. Minnesota was like the highest ownership kind of situation, well, up there at least, if it's not the highest, against Detroit. Like I don't think people respect Detroit, and I think that it's going to lead into a bit more ownership than I want to play into. So I'm probably not going to go there. I think there's better plays on the slate. It's just not a bad play. Let's get to the other side.
All right. On Detroit, we're not expecting any changes. Simone Edmondson, old friend of the show, Simone, scored twice. Absolute rocket. Actually, both of them were really. But
6 blocks too. Just
you do love to see that. Otherwise, nothing out of the ordinary. Andrew Kopp, we saw, might have been confirmed after the pod, I'm not sure, but we'll miss the rest of the season. So JT Compher, less than 4K, whatever, between two pretty good players. Elmer Soderblom took the vacated power play role. I guess Berggren can go fuck himself, and it's Big Elmer's time. Soderblom's another huge dude. He's not quite as talented as the likes of Heineman, in my opinion, but 2,800. Hey, you're starving for punts, like I said. So certainly an option there, and you will enjoy the hell out of watching him play hockey. I promise you that much. But for me, the clear target is the top line. Casper, Larkin, Raymond. They're going to cost you 19.3K, but they continue to produce, even though Casper's not with them on the power play. They've been really good at 5-on-5. Yes, Detroit as a team has been kind of power play merchanty, but that top line is legit. Like, they are actually good. And it's inarguable how good Dylan Larkin has been and how good his sustained run of form has been. The Brinket is certainly heating up as well, though. So if you want to mix and match across the power play, by all means, go for it. I certainly do respect Detroit, so I think I side on the Detroit front here. But for the narrative people, Columbus mom's trip, you can't beat that. They're bringing along Mrs. Gaudreau too. So, the narratives are through the moon for the Columbus Blue Jackets.
Yeah. I think I don't know. There's really not much to say here. Like, I think I understand playing the game. I think I understand. Like, I think I'm going to end up fading it, but and I do think there's a couple punts here that are interesting. I mean, if you want to watch a guy in Elmer Soderblom that is a guaranteed within, like, because like right now we're noticing what he is like, and again, just watch him and you'll see this. But like, if you are a Sabres fan and you ever listen to Craig Rivet and Andrew Peters talk, they're like a year and a half, 2 years away from saying they're ready to trade Dahlin for this guy. Like, just a 6'8" guy that will throw 7 hits a night and stand in front of the goalie and like cause a ruckus. He's a better Matt Rempe that no one knows about because he doesn't like fight everybody on the planet.
Well, he hasn't injured half the league.
He hasn't injured anybody, and he's like decent-ish. Like, he can actually kind of play. Yeah, I do enjoy that though, because every time I watch Detroit, you just notice him. Like, he's just a monster. There's no way to put it. Like, he's huge. But yeah. I think I'm fading that game. The next game, I believe our 2003 Stanley Cup revenge narrative. Wow. The Calgary Flames take on the Tampa Bay Lightning. I mean, those wounds never heal for some in Calgary. So, this is going to be a big one. I will say, I'm going to be brave. I'm going to be bold. I'm going to say there's going to be 2 to 3% tops on any Flames player in a bad matchup against Tampa on the road. Yes, on the road in a 5.5, a lower total. They're pretty big dogs here. So let's just say your narrative, right? Everything's wacky and weird and stupid. Do you have any interest in playing Kadri, Huberdeau, Coronado, and the boys?
Absolutely not.
Perfect.
Tampa actually looked pretty good against Edmonton, so
they're good. I know that's the problem.
Yeah, hey, maybe good teams are good sometimes, but certainly not like oh wow, there's clearly something wrong here. Tampa certainly looks good. So
play good players. It's not like good teams are good. Okay.
Yep. Okay. I've been bothered. Sorry, I've been bothered by this Solovyov guy. Why is he? What did I do? Yulia Solovyov. What? That's his name. It's spelled exactly like this.
Solovyyov.
Yeah.
Do you have II instead of IL?
Maybe. Could that be it?
It's obviously hard to tell when you're like doing it.
Oh yeah, it was.
Okay.
Wow, DJ, you're so sharp. That was bothering me before the show too, and then I just
they literally call me DJ Too Sharp.
DJ just knows his italicized L's and I's because he's in Excel so much. You see,
I'm in Excel a lot more. I do it at work. I'm at work now. I do Excel at work. Okay. Back to if we start talking about my work environment. Now, I will say this: if we're talking about players that are number 98 that have gotten points recently, Elias Solovyov is one of them. I mean, he actually has a point in his last game.
And
he's number 98. Right. So we'll get to it at the end of the show.
Yeah, so even checking in on old friends, Morgan Frost and Sharangovich and whatnot, that line played like 13 minutes against
Yeah.
Washington. So like it's just I can't find anything that I'm really excited by.
This
So
is this feels like a classic case of like a coach getting credit for a goaltender being amazing. And like even Vladar in the last game truly like kind of helped steal one against Washington. I mean, it was, Washington didn't play great by any, I'm not gonna sit here and say that, but like it is a situation where it's like people are like maybe believing a little too much in this Flames team. I think they're kind of bad. And I agree. I just don't think you need to get that crazy and contrarian. I think there is ways to get contrarian on this slate and probably win, but that's not one of them. The Tampa side will be probably played again. They were pretty popular last slate. I can't imagine people are that fearful of the Flames. Of course, people are actually afraid of Dustin Wolf, which he's been great. What are you going to say? Point looked, good. The boys are buzzing out there. They're playing well. We already mentioned it. Kucherov, Point, Gensel. And the real reason that came in so high, I think, is because of the 11-7 nature that Kucherov just naturally got a bit more ownership and then kind of fed into some of the rest. But what are you going to say?
Also, the total I think was 6.5.
Huge.
They were favorites. Yeah. And Braden Point's really cheap. I mean, given the options on the slate, point per dollar wise, Point is one of the best centers. And like I am very anti Braden Point in general because I don't love guys who are in the line A mold, where I was saying, they get either 3 or they get 20. Like I don't really like that because like I'm just gonna play Kucherov then and try to get guaranteed production elsewhere. Like that's sort of my general go-to. But with Point's price falling and with everyone around him rising, like Point is just, I think, on its like a fantastic value regardless.
Yeah.
And so that's, I think, has a lot to do with it. But I would not expect it to change here. Like you're gonna have the most popular guys on the slate likely being Tampa Bay Lightning, which if you're afraid of Dustin Wolf, that's a reasonable angle. Like there's never a bad reason to fade a 28% owned player, but just realize that you can look really stupid at the end of the night when you do that, because there's no coming back if Braden Point has 3 points.
Yeah, I will say that I was watching some of that game because it was sort of on an island, and I just kept noticing. I was like, Hagel's with Gergensons, and then I realized like that was the line. Is there any interest? I mean, Gergensons played 16 minutes. He's not a great, sexy player, but if they're 11-7 and he just was on that line, he did have an assist. He does.
Yeah. What did he get up to last game minutes wise?
16.
16.
No shots, no blocks. I'm just saying, like.
Yeah, no.
I think he had a breakaway and he missed the net, if I recall correctly. Watching, and that was when and that was when I was like, was that from Hagel? And I was like, okay, weird. And then I just kept seeing it, and I was like, wait, what were the lines to start this game? And I was like, oh, that's it. Oh yeah, he must have. He has one missed net thing that's like this big on HockeyViz. So I think I am remembering that correctly.
Yeah, I can pull that up. I'm looking at it. So
yeah. Okay, that makes sense. I was like, I feel like I remember him missing that on a breakaway, and it's like
it's his entire pie chart.
It's just good times right there.
Clearly, that is not a shooter adjusted because Zemgus is I think plus money to even hit the net on a breakaway. Anyway, you're making a completely valid point. I would guess to go back, they stick with the 11-7 setup. I mean, there was no real reason to do it lastly, other than John Cooper just felt like doing it, so they did it. And Gergensons would be a clear beneficiary. I would absolutely just not punt Gergensons on his own. Like I would play Hagel with it. And Hagel is also a fantastic play. I think I prefer playing Hagel with Point Kucherov over Gensel. It's only $400, and like you're saying, it's not like Hagel played 50% of his 5-on-5 time with Kucherov, but he gets enough shifts and the power play role, and just he's a better player in my opinion. So I would rather just do that. But if you're playing Gergens, definitely don't do it just as a one-off nonsense play. But I think it's enough spoken about Tampa. They're going to be tremendously owned, but they're also the best plays on the slate. So Kucherov's affordable, 8,700. It's not there's not enough separation between him and these 6K guys, for example, that we get to across the slate. So nothing
like
new, nothing out of the
people
ordinary.
will like people are playing Mitchell Chafee or whatever and engage Gonzalez because they have the second power play. And like I think I'd rather just play Gergensons. I don't know. It's whatever. But yeah, it's going to be chalky, but I think you get unique with Tampa, like you're saying, like Kucherov, Hagel, Gergensen situation, and hope that Hagel goes for his 5-point nonsense.
No, Brad, I think you have this wrong. I say nice things because I know DJ sometimes doesn't listen to me. So if the more I say nice things, the more likely he is to get the endorphins by listening to me. So then he'll listen to me when I say things that are actually important. So
there's just not that much to like sweat right now either.
Jesus
There's only
Christ.
3 games. I know.
Oh yeah. Oh my God. You're right. DJ has nothing.
Shabbat already got there, and now we're just kind of keeping an eye on Jack Hughes. But
yeah, Mike says jumped in late, but you two are giving off big loving couple happily reuniting after a Hall Pass week vibe. So Mike, it feels like you're talking from experience there, bud.
Listen, Hall Pass or me enjoying watching it, I don't know. I mean, whatever you want to call it, but like
speaking of enjoying watching it, Connor McDavid, just getting absolutely cucked by his teammate Leon Draisaitl, the Hart Trophy recipient. I mean, I'm calling it right now. Leon Draisaitl continues to go.
Growing fonder. Okay, sorry. There's so many parallels here. Yeah.
You simply cannot make an argument that voters can split their ticket. Like, oh, the Edmonton is good because McDavid and McDavid's been a ghost. Draisaitl continues to produce. It has not stopped. So I'm calling my shot here. Leon Draisaitl, my heart ticket's cashing. I have no doubt in my mind. But anyway, Edmonton and Florida is the matchup we're talking about. I preluded this with the rainbow chart. Florida looks phenomenal in this spot. Edmonton had 3 clunkers coming out of the break. Not 1, not 2, but 3. So that's gonna hurt your stuff. But also Florida has just been a very good team. A lot of this dates back to pre-break with Matthew Tkachuk. Tkachuk was one of the best players, expected fantasy point wise in the league heading into the break. So not having him, I would guess that's obvious. That's obviously impactful. Far be it for me to say it's not, but they're good enough around that without him to still be completely reasonable here. So I'm treating it as if, oh boy, what is Mike have? Quinn's in. What?
Yep, he is on the starting roster report as of 23 seconds ago. He is in the lineup.
They are going 11-7, which makes me think his minutes are going to be tough.
Concerned about that as well, but nevertheless, interesting. Yeah, I just kind of went with the shots for Fiala in that game, and I did play DFS tonight because I tried to make a lineup 3 times and got mad and stopped. Anyways, back to this game. I feel like we are also forgetting this is a Stanley Cup revenge narrative spot for the Oilers. They've been completely inept. I mean, they've been like the reason why it looks so good for Florida in this matchup and so bad for the Oilers is not only because of how good Florida has been. Like, it's just not been a good run out for the Oilers since returning from break. They've continued to move around players in the lineup to try to figure this out and get back on track. They just got pretty badly handled by Tampa. I like both sides. I do agree with the Leon of it all. Matt Savoy's also been pretty freaking good since joining the Oilers, earning that second power play role, sticking with Leon, finding opportunity because of that, who couldn't really, but he does have prospect pedigree. He has the I was traded by the Buffalo Sabres pedigree. He's guaranteed to win the Stanley Cup this year, that means. Now, does the second power play mean anything? No. Does he get a ton of minutes? No. But if you're playing Leon, are you considering playing Matt Savoy?
Considering, yes. Definitely doing it. I don't know. We talked about his prospect profile a bit on the last show, but for those who missed, he certainly profiles as more of a passer than a shooter. So 3,100, you're not losing a ton if you only get an assist and 2 shots from him. Like, that's perfectly good. But you're also not super likely to get like 2 goals on 5 shots or whatever. And I kind of would just like to have that in my range of outcomes. Obviously, these lines could also be completely torpedoed too. So that's a consideration. In general, like I'm not opposed to it, but Draisaitl is very much playable as a one-off as well. So I am currently trying to get in shot props on Vancouver guys because we don't see 11-7 from them very often. So anyway,
well, I mean, what are you betting? I mean, right now we're having a great. This has actually been one of the more fun live chats we've had. I think all season. I think it's probably because I'm back. I'm not going to quote myself on that.
yeah.
So why don't we give out
I
some
mean,
goods?
what am I doing? I am betting the shots on all the power play guys for Vancouver. Like that's
Ooh,
it. That's what I'm doing.
that's actually really. I was trying to focus on the show and focus on you, but I guess
turns
I'll go
out
ahead and.
turns out these situations don't often happen where we just last minute get a situation where guys could play 20 minutes who never ever eclipse that mark. But definitely Phil Heedle. I mean, taking that number makes a ton of sense. I think
3,
there's
4.
a lot to like.
Besser Garland. I mean, that's really it, right? Or is
Yes.
Garland even on the top part? Yeah. Are you taking DeBrusque or no?
I did not have DeBrusque, but I truly any of them are fine. Like this is just a minutes vacuum that we're just hoping to fill by getting some upside. If one of these guys gets a 5, basically the idea is I make money. That's my modus operandi here. As we move on to the St. Louis and Washington game. Actually, sorry, Florida. We need to talk about Florida. The
Florida,
Fighting Mackie Samoskevicius. I am expecting Florida to bring back Eetu Luostarinen. He missed in Nashville due to presumably the birth of his child. I'm guessing they've had the child. I didn't see anything about him on Wednesday though, so check that. If Luostarinen is out, Sourdiff would be in there. So like that's obviously an upgrade to the top 6 because they're not going to play him many minutes at all. But Sam Bennett, Reinhart, Verhaeghe, and Barkov are all, I think, dramatically underpriced. Maybe Barkov's fairly priced, but for the matchup, for the offensive potential that this game has, I'm a big fan of taking any of those 4. I'll probably go back to the well of taking Bennett and Reinhart and using Samoskevich as a value option. Samoskevich did get there late with sort of a bailout goal, but I want to say he had 5 shot attempts. Like this is just a dude who will shoot. He's 3,900, and we've seen him even get power play 2 or power play 1 shifts in the past. We even saw Bennett get a penalty, and Anton Lundell replaced him on the power play. So unfortunately, that dream's kind of dead. But I think if you're playing Sam Bennett, Samoskevich is definitely an option. That's sort of the way I would correlate it. Just with the way Bennett's playing, he's taking all the shots right now. So don't miss him at 5,700. But if you are playing Bennett, Samoskevich makes total sense as opposed to a Reinhart or Verhaeghe. I think Erod's just too expensive. Like just play Samoskevich instead if you want to play a full line stack. By all means. DJ, any interest in Aaron Ekblad? I know he's sort of been in and out of our consideration, but 5,300 for a defenseman who theoretically does it all, shots, blocks, and can pick up points on the power play.
I think obviously you have to say yes, especially if you're playing Florida, because there's a few defensemen on this slate that I think fit the similar mold of like, well, they're playing all the positions, and it is a good match. I mean, this is a high total. It is basically a pick 'em. The pace looks good. I mean, everything about this game looks good. So it's like, oh, I'm playing this game. There's cheap pieces. There's ways of, I really, to be fairly honest, the entire power play is cheapish, right? You can kind of stack this any way you want it. You can play Leon on the other side. Like it's a really, really good way to build your lineup. So yes, I think if you're playing a one-off Aaron Ekblad, you're not doing it right. Like he probably is more of he gets the blocks bonus. He has, 2 shots and 2 assists. Like who is scoring those goals, right? Like I kind of would probably say that's the way to do it. Really not a ton to say other than like this top power play is really good. Bennett joined it. He scored. Was it really all him? No, it was Barkov and Reinhart making an absolutely filthy play and then just sliding the puck in the back of the net. But luckily for him, those guys can do that again. And like, he's going to be involved in the game with 5,700. He's definitely a good play. So like that, I also will say that whether Mackie Samoskevich hit my shot prop or not, that really didn't, obviously didn't. He was shooting a ton. He was very involved. They had tons of opportunity. I'm definitely going back to the well tomorrow. But we can keep things moving with, Blues, Washington, Barry Trotz Bowl of sorts. Oh, shoot. He's on that. He's National GM. Holy crap.
Yeah, I'm like, what did I miss? The Nashville already trade their GM because they're just cleaning house. St. Louis.
Close.
I mean, St. Louis is just a fucking factory of sadness. Like, they roll 4 lines. I mean, I really again, I still like the team. I think they are actually a good team, and I would not be surprised to see them make a run at that East spot in the West. But they run 4 lines. Under Jim Montgomery, they play one of the lowest paces, if not the lowest pace in the NHL. And it just hasn't changed for months now. So my lean is just not to play it at all, like just entirely fade. But we will discuss St. Louis, and then we'll discuss Washington. On the St. Louis side, Zach Bolduc scored twice last game. They put up a touchdown on Seattle, so I don't know. 3,300, 17th overall pick a few years ago. It's looked good in the league so far. I don't know. Any of these top 6 prices, though, stand out to you? We have Neighbors at 4,200, Holloway's down to 4,600. Like, can you squint and see a path to St. Louis getting there in our lineups?
I mean, obviously, you could find a way to do it. It's easy to do. I'm not going to do it. This isn't Seattle anymore. This is Washington. I think this game is bad from a DFS perspective. And I think at the end of the day, my problem is always just like, no matter what you like, the obvious upside players and Kyrou and Holloway certainly like it's interesting. And that's what I want to do. And I just know that Robert Thomas is still the engine. And his mates are just not really stackable around him. One of them being Buchnevich at 5K just feels a little bit overpriced on this slate. Like, it's not a value that's going to help me afford what I want to afford. And then Jake Neighbors not being good and not in his power play. So like, do you get unique? And now all of a sudden you're talking, oh, let's go cross lines. No, right? So I just feel like it's just fundamentally bad process more than it is like, again, like the Flames and Blues are not going to get ownership, and for good reason. There's a million other teams on this slate to play and that aren't going to get ownership. So plenty of them. So no, thank you.
Oscar Sundqvist is coming off of his first ever 3-point game. I think I saw that. Maybe that's not right, but I'm pretty sure I saw it was his first ever 3-point game. But his underlying, like his expected fantasy points were actually trending in the right direction before last slate. So like 3K for a guy on a power play with Robert Thomas, it's not too hard to squint and see a guy who additionally kills penalties, so like he's never going to be frozen out of the game script. He's not a, featured part of their offense, but there's crazier things, I think, than a 3K punt Sundqvist at center to do, with your lineup. So if you want to play Robert Thomas, that actually might be the crazy way to stack it. Just do like Kucherov, Hagel, and, whoever, and then play like Thomas Sundqvist to make room for it. I don't know.
Good
idea.
Dare I say Cam Fowler? Dare I do it?
Just just don't.
Like at 3,900, you're not even okay.
No,
that's fine. No.
He's Cam Fowler.
27 bomb last late, and you're just going to sit here and pretend like it didn't happen.
I think I faded him in. He had a 38 pointer. So yes, I've had worse. I've had worse Cam Fowler fades.
I mean, I'm not playing it. I'm just saying, like, if you're sitting there, like, I'm playing Robert Thomas, like, you probably could actually click the button, but yeah, Washington.
The Fight Novies. I'm not sure if they switch up their lines. Obviously, losing to Calgary, they could, but also I saw it was their first home regulation loss since November 23rd. I've gotten the tires changed on my car twice since then. So like it's been a while, one might say. I don't know. I just don't see it with these prices. I think they're going to get some ownership being at home. They're going to be pretty decent favorites. John Carlson was one of the higher owned players last slate. He's looking better, 5,400. They also switched up the D pairs more so than the lines. They moved Chikrin and Carlson together. So like you could talk me into that sort of even like a double D stack. You know, we love some double D builds around here.
Jesus.
That's right. DJ and his walking bets. So
My walking bets are the best. Yes.
yeah, like that's an angle, you know, check on it for sure. But like, are you paying this much for Ovi in a matchup where I don't think there's much volume? Like, probably not. I'm certainly not paying up for Dubois Wilson on a 12 gamer. So I think this is mostly just interesting, but not like totally DFS relevant from a game standpoint. Anything to add?
No, let's get to the the red hot Buffalo Sabres against Carolina in a game that I feel like if you would have told me was a 6.5, I would have been like, that can't be right. But it is 6.5 plus 110 on that over. And then you look more into it and you're like, I can almost see it. And that's wild to say. And this is kind of one of the first spots where it's like, it's ownership. I mean, ownership didn't really come in droves. I mean, it was there for Buffalo against the Anaheim Ducks. I thought certainly it would be higher. I was kind of joking about being 30%, but really thought we'd see 20% Tage Thompson on a big slate, right? And we didn't. And he didn't smash. He didn't, he broke 12% of people's hearts or whatever it was. Now, as a $7,700 player against Carolina, I mean, no one's probably clicking that button. And I don't know if there's been too many teams worse than, well, not worse, but they just haven't looked great. As of late, kind of feels like there's turmoil and just a lot kind of going on. And are you considering clicking on the Buffalo Sabres?
As far as the top guys go, like again, we're just talking about this range where there's a lot of options that I just like better than Tage at 7,700, for example. So I'm not all that interested in a road Sabres team heading into Carolina of all places. I'm pretty sure Jason Zucker's really hurt. He's just trying to gut through it. Like once the Sabres, well, actually, I mean, the Sabres were fighting to come back, and he still only got like 12 minutes. He missed large stretches of time. I'm a little leery about that Tuck Zucker McLeod line for 15.9. I think this third line, though, has some legs. Dylan Cousins had a 3-point night. He's looked increasingly better as the season's gone on, in my opinion. And the line stack as a whole, with Jordan Greenway, Dylan Cousins, and Jack Quinn, is only 11.8K. You get Jack Quinn on the top power play. You can definitely stack it with Dahlin if you want to as well. Dahlin did nothing against Anaheim, but I mean, if you were watching that game, he was like every time the Sabres had the puck, he was like, yeah, Dahlin's dancing 6 guys. And for whatever reason, it didn't didn't turn into fantasy points. But he's been a lot better. I think there's certainly an injury narrative for him too, like improving injury wise, to where if I'm playing the Sabres, I'm probably just playing Dahlin with it. But again, like 11.8K for this line of Greenway, Cousins, and Quinn is probably where I would go if anything. I'm quite interested to see what Carolina does with their lineup because unless you had anything to add on Buffalo, we saw a blender. But to start the game, I mean, this wasn't even how they started last game, and then they just blundered it again. So I just literally left it as is because we truly have no idea what Carolina is going to do. Yeah. DJ, let's not talk about what they are going to do. What should they do? I have no idea what Carolina should do. Like, it was bad, and then getting blown out by Montreal 4-0, looking completely lifeless. I mean, it was only 2.6 to 2.0 expected goals. Like, it's not like Carolina had their Carolina game. Like, they were just dead. So what do you do?
Yeah. I mean, I think that the worst part of this whole conversation is that I think that like I might end up playing Carolina because I feel like they're just going to be completely unowned. And it could end up being a top line, top power play that is expensive, but is it that expensive compared to other things? Like if it is Rantanen, Aho, Jarvis, right? Rantanen, Aho, Svechnikov, and it's this full power play one correlated situation. Again, we won't even know. I mean, Burns was last game. Is it going to be Burns? Who even cares about the defenseman? In my opinion, just throw it in the garbage, move on. Like I could see that being the actual like everyone's going to look back and be like, we really let Carolina go 1.5%. Aho, Rantanen, and Jarvis against Buffalo. And we thought like, oh, just because of a recent trend of Buffalo looking good, which they have. Really, I mean, to be entirely fair, they've been better on the season than anyone will give them credit for, but as of late, actually very good. And everyone's going to set this recent trend and just ignore the fact that Carolina is playing Buffalo at home in a 6.5 goal total, and is a minus 230 favorite. And we're just going to say the sports books are dumb, or maybe I'm actually giving the reason why it's going to get some ownership. I don't know, right? I mean, correct me. Maybe you're thinking that actually it's going to get owned. But I actually think this Carolina side could be a bit interesting.
Certainly interesting. I very much struggle with them not getting ownership. I think is the problem. Like, yeah, of course, if they're 2% owned, like you could get Jam Carolina. In my opinion, that's just not happening. We've seen this tale enough where team has a monster team total, they're just going to get owned. And like you're saying, 6.5 total, they are the favorites. I think where some of the problems lie, it might just be actually over for Brent Burns, and it might just be a matter of when Carolina sees that. Pairing him with Jacob Slavin's just not the answer. I think it might make more sense for them to do something like Slavin with Sean Walker, which they went to late last game. I don't know, because then you're sort of stuck. Like, you're not going to pair Gostisbehere with Burns, so you're breaking up that Orlov Chatfield pairing. Like, just doesn't feel like you're in a great position. Yeah, it's very tough. I will say that. I guess looking at these players, Jackson Blake, like maybe he's a cheap option. That you just stick him with Aho and you say, look, if we're gonna figure it out, it's Aho, Rantanen, and Blake, and just like that's. I mean, obviously you're building your team around Svechnikov and Jarvis too, but like you're talking, young guy in Jackson Blake, like just kind of rely on that to get out of it.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I mean, who is leading the team in expected fantasy points per game per your sheet?
It is Mikko at the moment.
And who is the player that's the total scapegoat? Who is the player that no one and people are going to leave out, right? I mean, like, yeah, I'm sitting here just like, if you're playing Carolina and you actually want to win the slate and you're like, I'm going for, I'm playing the $20 and you include him. Like, do not be a gutless coward and just let the narrative around this guy keep you away from the fact that he is one of the best goal scorers in this generation. And he's going to be the guy left off.
Yep.
Playing all the minutes.
So here's a list of expected fantasy points minus actual fantasy points over the last 10 games, as far as like the most unlucky players in the NHL. Adrian Kempe, Laferriere, they're 1 and 2 with a bullet. You go to Brian Rust, who missed a few games in there due to illness or whatever, and then you get Mikko Rantanen. Like, I mean, this is literally the entire league we're talking about, and it's just not going in the net for him. Nothing's going right. So yeah, that is an angle for sure.
Hit the post on the power play last game. It just insult to injury, everything going on around him. I'm just sitting here like, yeah, I'm probably doing it.
What I put in the sheet for the audio listeners is my guess is how they react to this change is they load up the top line somehow. Aho with freaking Taylor Hall didn't work. Who knew? So I'm going to guess they do that somehow. They're going to keep the 4 forwards on the power play one. I think they're going to go back to Shane Gostisbehere on the power play. I don't think the switch to Burns was anything permanent. I want to say there's even maybe an injury or an illness that elicited it in the first place. But so I think we get Gostisbehere back on power play one. And if 3,600 Gostisbehere is playing with Sean Walker, I think I could be talked into him as well. Maybe that's the angle where it's just like, yeah, these Carolina forwards are going to be pretty expensive, but with it's pretty owned, but with some uncertainty around what the power play looks like, maybe you can get a pretty cheap Gostisbehere low owned as well. So that's what I'm looking for. If we get news, obviously just react to that. But if we don't, that is our professional approach to how we will be.
And just, I guess the last note in general about like ownership is we've talked about a lot of really potentially decently high ownership options in Montreal. We mentioned Boston being a good play. We mentioned Tampa just obviously getting there. people are going to be interested. This Columbus-Detroit thing seems interesting. You have Edmonton and Florida in a really high total, great matchup. We haven't even gotten all the way down to Vegas against Chicago. We haven't even mentioned Minnesota, who was super high on last slate in maybe a worse matchup. We have Anaheim on this slate, playing a team on the back-to-back. And next, we go to the team that just put up, I believe, a touchdown in Philadelphia at Pittsburgh. We're just sitting here right now with so many great options on this slate. And it just, again, I don't know who's going to be the one that no one plays, right? And the Carolina matchup is good. It is, like, even against Buffalo, who's played well, like I said. So I am interested there. I think that's a really good pivot. This game, on the other hand, doesn't look good. It does have a high goal pace. Last game, well, the third line for the Flyers went for like 92. What are our thoughts when we look at this Philly team? You moved up to line one. Smart.
They've been line one for me for a couple months now. That's just the way Torts uses them. You don't have to like it. But yeah, hey, I'm just the guy who bet on both Brink and Forster at plus 300 to get assists. So I mean, I'm just riding the heater because I also bet Nino at plus 325 today to get an assist. And what do you know? It turns out good players in questionable matchups with depth that just doesn't exist. Maybe good spots to jam those super plus teams. Numbers.
Good plus number. Okay, sorry, I'm writing this down again. These are good notes. Yeah. Thank you.
Please do take notes. I will not be repeating this before the test. Fortunately, we did see Owen Tippett get power play work last game. That was not the case 2 games ago, so not sure what changed, but hey, we'll take it. But Tippett, Couturity, and Michkov. Yes, DJ tried to cover boy Owen Tippett. Not a clue why.
I just thought like Marchenko and Tippett. It sounded fun. It kind of sounded like a fun little pairing of guys that can score goals. I wasn't really thinking that deeply about it. I was like, whoever we used this year. We never used Owen Tippett, and I think we used Marchenko like very early on, and I just thought it'd be fun. And whatever, we went with Rossi instead. It's fine. It was the first time you ever were like genuinely no. I was like, yeah, I was like, okay.
Like, yeah, just shut down. Andrei Kuzmenko moved up another 200, so congratulations to him. But yeah, I think for Philly, the only options we're really thinking of is Michkov and Risto. Risto remains 3,700. He scored last slate. But that power play role is just, I think, really solid. Sorry, Michkov, Mr. Michkov. I'm pretty sure that's actually how you say it. DJ, once again, was very right.
Too sure.
But 5,300 for Michkov is a little tough. But the matchup is good. So those are the only 2 players I'm interested in. I got to say, I don't have any interest in this game, though, on its face, barring something changing. Right. So
I'm gonna have to. Not really. I mean, again, I think it's kind of a mess, but I get it. But let's just say you have X amount of money. It doesn't matter. You have a one-off piece that fits a perfect player. And I'm just going to say, throw it out there. They're all kind of in the same range. And it's just, which player is that you're like, oh, this is the perfect one-off?
What salary?
It doesn't matter. Let's just say that whatever you land on, it's a Philly player.
My favorite Philly one-off, you mean?
Yeah. Yeah, it's your favorite Philly one-off, right?
Michkov.
Okay, good. All right, me too. I think it's me too.
Yeah, okay.
Just making sure we're on the same page.
All right. For Pittsburgh, what changed? Michael Bunting missed practice due to illness. They sent Matt Nieto down. So if Bunting doesn't play... Well. Yeah, I mean, it was going so well. If Bunting doesn't play, there's a lot more complication, but whatever, it doesn't really matter. What's important is Rust is back with Crosby and Raquel. Of course, that was the case last game, and look what happened. So, why do I feel like there is actually whatever? I don't know, but I feel like I was doing more work. Oh, Matt Grzelcyk is actually playing. I thought he was going to miss last game, and he didn't. That's the thing that screwed everything up. All right. So yeah, fully healthy blue line for Pittsburgh, basically back to full strength, top 6, whatever. I don't care. If you want to play Sid, go for it. We'll just reiterate that he is in one of the most grueling stretches I've seen any player have to deal with from a scheduling perspective. I've complained about this enough, but in the midst of a 6 games and 9 nights after the Four Nations face-off, where he got roughly 32 hours to recover after that Thursday night final, and it's not stopping. He's starting another 3 games and 4 nights on Thursday night.
Yeah.
So
I think,
good luck.
I would. I mean, it's a 6.5 total. Like, I get it. There's a lot of those on this slate. Things have just been kind of wonky with goals. I think this game is probably the one I'm just also kind of Xing out if like
Perfect.
It's unnecessary. There's punts on Philly that I think will get ownership. No one's going to play Pittsburgh, probably for good reason. I think you can get different elsewhere. Like I said, like Carolina. And even though, of course, Pittsburgh will be less owned, I don't think it's substantial enough that it matters. Get to another game that I don't think we'll see much, if any, real ownership. Winnipeg on a back-to-back goes to Nashville. What player was it? And I'm totally blanking that after the game was like, we just can't score.
It was
we
Luke
don't.
Shen.
We like. It was Luke Shen. Okay, I mean he's not going to help there. It was a defenseman. Yeah, Luke Shen and Nashville is. I mean, the most broken team in the league award has to go to Nashville. Tough.
I mean, here's
tough.
the quote. I don't think I've ever been part of a group like this that literally can't score a goal.
And they scored a goal in that game. Just want to remind everyone. So he's a liar. They scored one time.
Yeah, thank you, DJ. You should check him with those facts and logic.
What was their expected goals if you're not looking?
I'm not looking. Against.
Want me to tell you? I get to say it.
Was that against Florida, right?
Yeah.
I'm gonna go like 1.2. It was ugly.
Well, 1.7. It was ugly. Yes.
Yeah. It was very ugly.
Like what's amazing about Nashville is I feel like there's some things, again, like later in the season, probably before the playoffs, I'm going to do some, like what we were right about, what we were wrong about. I don't think anyone has ever been more correct with your assessment of Nashville, because you were the lowest I'd ever heard anybody about a team that everyone was so high on. Like when their top line isn't on the ice, and the fact that they have often gone to the Forsberg, Stamkos, Marchessault, I mean, you might as well, like, nobody exists. Like they're completely surrounded by non-NHL quality players, and like teams have just figured out how to take away Forsberg well enough that it's just nothing. I mean, there's nothing there. It's bad. I don't know how you play it. You just don't.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's all I got. Yossi got, I think, hurt-ish. Like he came back, I thought, but maybe he left again. He only played 15 minutes, and maybe he didn't come back. I thought he came back.
No, he left and not returned, did not practice. He's not going to play.
Bennett tried to kill him. When Bennett tried to kill him, it did not. They did get a power play, I thought.
Don't worry. I have it all covered. Don't worry.
Okay. All right, yeah, we'll just get to it. I thought Shea took it, but then I was confused. Popcorn to Matt.
Yeah, I was just so. I mean, you mentioned like 6 different things, but we've revisited this enough. But my offseason take on Nashville was honestly nowhere near as bad as this has turned into. I simply just didn't think taking a team that was struggling to convert expected goals into real goals and adding 2 35-year-olds was going to fix that issue. Like, part of the magic that made them so good was their relentless forechecking and their ability to create offense from anywhere. That's not what Stamkos and Marchessault do. They finish offense, which, like, yeah, matches in some extent, but they just have no centers. That's the problem. And so I guess we're seeing that play out. But like, you can give me credit, but like I was so wrong about how that situation would play out from like a detail standpoint. That
like, we were the most right.
You
were the most right though, compared to anybody else in the world.
I am the most right. It's just I'm still
like,
right.
It's like you said the number was 60 and then it ended up being 10, and everyone else said it'd be 85, 90, and it's like, well, you win. Like, so
that is very good. Yes, that is exactly right. Anyway, starting off with Winnipeg before we get to the Nashville stuff that I cut you off on. We're like, I don't know. It's a back-to-back for Winnipeg, and that's really the only reason that you're like, yeah, I don't really want to pay $21K for this top line that's perfectly correlated and quite talented. You can. It's not going to be overowned. It's not really. It's all fine.
There's a smudge on your screen. I think it's 36. Oh no, it is. It's 5,600 Cole Perfetti. Get hot. Get like some players, they refuse to price up. They saw Cole Perfetti get like 5 points in 5 games, and they're like, to the moon and back, brother. This line is the best line in hockey.
I haven't looked at Tomas Hertl's price later, so I can't wait to see that, because you're talking about guys who they refuse to price up. Let's see what they did for this matchup. Anyway,
okay.
I don't think there's any news.
I did look.
Okay, I don't think there's any news to take off of the Ottawa game. I think they all made it through just fine. Eric Comrie's going to start. Whatever, Hellebuck backup. Who cares? On the Nashville side, we did get power plays in practice this morning, and so Forsberg, O'Reilly, Marchessault will stick as a 5-on-5 line, which, honestly, I guess more power to you. If it's not working, don't fix it. But that's fine. Nyquist, Fedor, Svechkov, and Stamkos remain the second line. Both Nyquist and Stamkos are on the power play, so they're doing a 5-4 top power play. And Brady Shea and Justin Barron will be the top pair in Roman Yossi's absence. And they will be joined on the power play by Svechkov and then Tommy Novak and Evangelista, who make up the third line with Kiefer Bellows. So not a ton here. There's no new lines or anything, just new power play units. I think that Justin Barron's interesting. It's definitely just a bet on prospect profile type for me. And he's old enough now where, does the prospect profile really matter if you're 23 and have had multiple seasons of NHL action? I don't know. But the fact that he's now moving on to the top pair with Brady Shea, he's 2,800. I meant to look things up a bit better, but coming out before the AHL, he had some really incredible shot numbers. You see the point production just wasn't there. So maybe he's just, maybe he's not as good as we would have liked in the AHL, but it could be that. But I still think that there's at least a window open. And with that window being slightly open and with us being starved of punts, I'm totally fine playing Justin Barron at 2,800. I'm also fine playing Brady Shea at 4K. I hate the guy. I won't be doing it, but I'm fine with it. There's a reason Roman Josi plays so many minutes. It's because he's that much better than the team around him. And I promise you, Luke Shen and Andreas Englund are not going to play 18 minutes here. So it's going to, and Jake Livingstone, by the way, is on their second pair, who I've never heard of. I have no idea who this dude is. Shea's going to play a ton.
Yeah. I agree. I mean, my thought going into this game was if Nick Blackenberg is the guy that gets promoted with Shea, and it ends up being Barron. So Barron is just a better play. Blackenberg kind of similarly had he's older. He kind of spent some time in the college ranks. There's punts here. I think that's really the best angle is just play Justin Barron. Honestly, I think that's the one actual no. And Shea at 4K he's going to play a lot of minutes. He's not good at hockey, but he's there.
Mike's just cooking in the chat. He's giving DJs free betting ideas. Bad beats. Hit the Brock Faber. There you go. Hit the Brock Faber.
I think fader is like a thing on the DJ thing. You fade in and out.
Yeah, the table. Yeah.
The tables of sorts. Well, because you missed the free idea above.
Yeah, no, I saw that.
Oh,
I guess we didn't talk about it, but anyway, it's just funny.
It's a great idea, and there's if I just full-time committed to trying to do this stuff and just was I'm never gonna make money because no one cares about hockey. I have a lot of good ideas. This is another good idea. There's no way I'm gonna this is.
You have a lot of ideas. I'll grant you that.
Thank you. And the dumbest ones win in my brain, though, as Matt is certainly aware of right now, and it's something that I'll probably end up bringing up on the next podcast. We're going to go an hour and 45 minutes at this point, so we might as well move on to Minnesota, Utah.
Yes, Minnesota and Utah matchup is fine.
Yeah.
Utah looks much better than Minnesota, but I don't know. I really don't think Utah's that good, guys. I'm sorry.
Prove it.
I know I hate to be the guy who's the lowest on Utah in the room, but I think we've overdone it on just what an absolute gong. Just, oh my God, this Utah team, the fans are everything. Even the Dylan Gunther hype train has just gone up to an absolute gajillion. And so, am I going to sit here and tell you that, I started it, yes, but at some point, it's gone out of control, people. We're talking about him being a lock for Team Canada at the Olympics. I've seen Team Canada pick players. They're not picking Dylan Gunther unless he scores 8
Mm-hmm.
trillion goals. Like,
and then they definitely won't pick him.
yeah, because he's only focused on his offense.
Yeah, no, I mean the bull case to play Minnesota is the fact that they have Vinny Hinostroza on the top power play just goes to show you that they're desperate for talent on offense. They have one line of Boldy, Rossi, and Zuccarello, all perfectly correlated on the power play and all that. Rossi is a legitimately good player. He was a very highly touted prospect. He's really come and shown it this year in every way. He finally earns his spot on the cover. We know that's a good sign. And I mean, really, Owen Tippett unfortunately couldn't make it. So he's going for a hat trick, but Rossi did. So he's at least scoring once. I think it's a good matchup, like you're saying. And those guys are going to see 20 plus minutes. Hinostroza on the power play, of course, is interesting. Faber is, boy, Matt, are we going to dare say almost an option, but not quite?
Yeah, I'm just gonna say no because
okay,
I would rather
no is
Bristow.
another good answer.
I would rather play low rye. Like there's options priced similarly that I just prefer.
Yeah, and again, I don't think as many. I mean, I do think there will be ownership, but don't get me wrong. I don't think it'll be that high. There's so many good spots. It's a low total. It's not a heavy favorite on the road. They're not a favorite at all. They're underdogs on the road. So I like the Minnesota side more than the Utah side. I like it enough to put it in the kind of consideration zone. But I think my lineup, like I said, is kind of leaning towards Carolina right now. I don't think I'm going to have enough to get Boldy, Rossi, and Zuccarello.
Yeah, Minnesota closed at minus 115 and a 5.5 against Detroit. So that means what, a 2.9 total got them to some outlandish ownership. Now they're, Utah's minus 150. So that's going to get them at, 2.6, 2.5 total. I don't think that's going to get much ownership. Obviously, if that's not the case, and Boldy, Rossi, Zuccarello at 18.4K is going to come in at 15% ownership again. Like, yeah, you probably just don't play it, but I don't see it getting there. I'd be very interested in leaving off Zuccarello and mixing in Hinostroza, just the exact sort of player that we want when he's getting minutes. I got to say, though, this top six is missing one very special name to me. Imagine how excited we would be to talk about Adam Beckman on a 12-game slate. If you were part of
minimum salary Beckman. I mean, honestly, or just move Ogren up, and I'm just like,
we are windmill jamming. But
they are so afraid of greatness that they had to claim Hinostroza off waivers just to put Ogren in his spot for 12 minutes, and it's disappointing. It's disappointing.
It makes no sense, but whatever. Like,
I'm not going to sit here and I once again break it. I'm jerking myself off, but I'm just simply wasn't playing 20% Vinny Hinostroza. I don't think he even got that high, but he's going to get 14 minutes and he's going to get power play 1 and he's going to see a ton of ownership because of it. I'm just not interested. On the other side, we have the kind of put all back together again. This is the team that we expected. Utahians for now. Keller, Cooley, Schmaltz, Carconi, maybe the guy that I don't know, but whatever. Hayton and Gunther. Marino with Sergachev, very serviceable top pair. Dursey with Mata, again, pretty good. But I do think all of it overinflated. These are good players. They aren't fantastic defensively. They get a boost playing Chicago last game, and Chicago, I mean, boy, if their team were dead. They almost had a minute where they didn't look dead, and then they're like, oh shit, what are we doing? They're not playing Chicago anymore. They're playing a real hockey team. I don't think I'm interested here. I understand again that Hayton and Gunther will get ownership because it's fine, and someone's going to draw a better matchup than others against bad players that are good defensively on Minnesota. I don't think they're bad players that cannot play hockey. They're bad players in the respect that they don't score a lot of goals. But like Freddie Gaudreau is a fine center, and that top line is fine. I think I'm just fading this game. And I should have hoping that people get in on it, and I don't.
I should have given Mr. Freddie some flowers. I actually do like him when he moves up into a top 6 role.
Yeah. He's a real hockey player. Yeah.
Yep. Gunther and Hayton were like 20% on last slate, so obviously that's like the ceiling on this 12 gamer. but I would not be surprised to see them get 14-15% again against Minnesota. The pricing still works out. You add in Carconi. Let's see, how much ownership did Carconi get? Yeah, Carconi got 6% ownership in the 555, so not not nearly as high, but it just goes to show like when he's this cheap, when the line's 14.6K, there's gonna be ownership that comes in on it. And it's one of those spots where I'm just sort of like, I get it, I respect it, but I think I'm out. And yeah, I'd rather just take cheaper Minnesota guys, or even just spend up for Boldy and Rossi personally.
Yeah, 2 games left. We have Vancouver on a back-to-back, which could be a bit interesting. Quinn Hughes ended up dressing. It ends up being 11-7. Everything's kind of going to be a bit weird here. Your sheet, obviously, what were you going to do? I mean, up until 2 minutes before lock, we didn't even know. So tough break there. Anaheim, every single slate we talk about them, it's going to be probably 3 things. Number 1, they're bad defensively. They continue to be bad defensively. Every time you play against them is a time that you can win a slate. Number 2, Jackson Lacombe is just good at hockey. I mean, is it the fact that we put him on the cover over a month ago that got him to the point he's at now? Yes, that's exactly what happened. It was just one of those situations where it was sort of like we kept talking about like he keeps looking good. That can't be because he's good, and it just might be that he's good. I don't know. And 3 is that there's kind of always a new flavor of the week, it feels like, but lately it's kind of just stuck with McTavish being the flavor of the month. But I do think that'll be a bit of a revolving door of who's the favorite child in the eyes of the actual worst coach in the NHL. So any thoughts on playing Vancouver on a back-to-back? Let's start there.
I mean, I want to see what Quinn Hughes does minutes wise. They win 11-7, so that I'm pretty worried about ice time for Quinn Hughes. Like, just also
Elias Pettersson played. Like both of them did.
Yeah.
Am I blind? Yeah, he's not on there. Suter, Garland, DeBrusk. It was.
Oh
Pettersson.
Yeah, sure.
I'm sorry. I know. I mean, this is wrong. I'm just like, I had a moment where I was like, this seems even more wrong than I thought it was.
Yeah, was Pettersson out after the? No, I don't know. Maybe. I think it was a game time decision before the Vegas game, and I think that's when. That's when I did this. So whatever. Pettersson should be in. He's 6,300. You're not.
Yeah,
you're not missing out on much. So
well, is there ever going to be a chance where we dive back in, where we jump back in?
No, not when we just play Philip Hedl instead. In all honesty, but yeah, no. So basically, the idea on Vancouver is if Quinn Hughes is going to play 23 minutes, then yeah, I'm interested. I really want to see what they do and what they say post game as far as like, I mean, if Quinn Hughes sits tomorrow because they don't want to play him on a back-to-back, like that makes sense. But it would be good to know that before I really make any decisions. So ultimately, I don't see anything pricing-wise that makes me that interested in Vancouver at all. Like Hedl, 5,800. Maybe if he's paired with Garland and Garland's on the top power play. I don't think that's going to happen, though. We'll see. But otherwise, pricing's just too high. Anaheim's bad, but they're not playing Vancouver levels of bad IMO.
Yeah. Quinn Hughes looks like, Quinn Hughes got 6 minutes and 35 seconds through the first period. So
that is,
pretty.
I mean, depends on power plays and whatnot, but not a great start.
Yeah. I mean, it's a start. He played. Okay. Anaheim.
Nothing's really new from last show. We didn't see a practice today, but they didn't play well against Buffalo. But like, what are they going to do? Maybe they move McTavish back between Cutter and Fabry. But the pricing's just got out of control. I mean, Cutter's 5K, McTavish is 5K. Like, what made these guys special in DFS is just not true anymore. So, McTavish is fine. He's been good, but like, he's not been special for the price. Jackson Lacombe did get top power play billing. The field was very much on that. He was 12% at home against a back-to-back Vancouver team. You can play Jackson Lacombe at 4,500. Like, again, I think I actually prefer Lowry, and but maybe not. I don't prefer Risto, but I think I prefer Lowry. There's probably other. I almost prefer playing like John Carlson or whatever. Just finding the money to get a little bit more expensive too. I think that could work. Because Lacombe was, I think, 4K last slate, maybe 4,200. Like, we're just going to see an incremental creep when he gets 10% owned every slate. So I kind of just want to move on. Is there anything you want to add on Anaheim?
No, I agree.
Cool.
I think that is
Final
everything.
game.
And we get the final game, the highest implied team total
Just
of the night, Vegas against the I don't know if we mentioned this, very bad Chicago Blackhawks.
Yeah. We don't know what Chicago is going to do with their lines, so
Doesn't
I
matter.
didn't update anything. Seth Jones has ironically been pretty good.
Yeah, I know.
He's demanded a trade. He's basically said, like, this is the worst hockey team walking on the face of the earth. Like, we've not gotten any better since day one, was his exact quote, which, like, oof.
They had a coach that was up there with the worst, and rightly was fired. And then they got, I don't even know, who is doing no better. It's a mess. I mean, the top line was Bertuzzi, Nazar, and Bedard.
Sure.
It's probably that now. Okay. Top power play.
See it, but
I played Bedard last slate. I sat there and I put my money on Bedard to bounce back. He had the minutes. He did not.
Very sorry.
Yeah, no, it was a bad play. I punted to afford a one-off Bedard, thinking that I was sharp, and ended up with a losing lineup as one would have.
I think I told you to play Dahlin instead of Bedard. So we
I think you told me to punt that and play Dahlin instead of
play like Hinostroza or something. Yeah.
And I was like, no. DJ Too Sharp is right here right now putting this lineup together, and he's got this. You're
getting Nazar, Bedard, Bertuzzi for 13.4K if that's what happens. Whatever. If you want to do that, it's fine. Good luck. Vegas. All right. They moved Hurdle up to 6,200. That was the big reveal I was waiting for. Probably not quite as high as it should be, but it's better than 5,300, which is where he was like locked in for a month. Did we? No, we got to practice today, but all the Four Nations guys didn't practice. So, guess for now, Barbashev, Eichel, Olofsson, Dorofeev, Hurdle, Lavoie, Saad, Howden, Stone, Pearson, Nick Waugh, and Kolasar. Let's take a peek at last game. I know they blew a lead in the third to LA because it cost me literally $20,000+.
Pietrangelo, I think, was on the ice for all goals against in that period too.
Yes.
I mean, it was a bit of a mess. Everything was weird, and I do think there could be changes. This is what they had, and we don't really know if it's going to actively change yet. Again, we're talking about where's the ownership going to land? Eichel at 8K is of course in play here. Hurdle and Dorofeev are of course in play here. Are people going to jump on the top power play 5,300 Noah Hannafin, who's been bad, goes to the Four Nations, wasn't much better. It's just kind of like, how do you play it and feel good about your lineup is the difficult part here. I think people are going to find an answer. I think that it could end up being Stone back with Barbashev and Eichel, and that's probably the correct way of doing things in this world, but it's really expensive for, I don't know.
Yeah, the annoying thing about Vegas, or maybe the good thing about Vegas, is that they're not going to get there through shot volume like most of the time. I mean, you look at the last 10 games, it's Eichel 6, Dorofeev 6, shot attempts, by the way, obviously not shots like on goal. Shea Theodore's out, so Mark Stone 4.6, Hurdle 4.6, Nick Hague 4, and then everyone else is below 4 attempts per game on this team, and it's just like, so you just stack. You don't take one-offs. You don't, dips and you just take 3 guys. You take no guys. It's not like you're gonna miss out on a guy who gets a goal, an assist, and 5 shots, and is the only guy in his team to get there. Like, that's just gonna happen so rarely that you're gonna be paid off in stacking, I think, more often. And however you want to stack across power plays, across even strength lines, I think it all makes sense. This matchup is good enough where either could pay off. But just make sure you're stacking. And so if we get changes to the lines in morning skate, if we have uncertainty, like that is going to make me far more likely to play Vegas than if we just know that these are the lines and like have at it, because we're getting the Eichel line at 16.7K. We're getting the hurdle line at 15K, but almost no one's going to play Lavoie because, he's just not really a fantasy option. But if you did something like replacing Lavoie with Mark Stone, you're looking at a 18K line. And again, that's doable. Noah Hannafin, also very reasonable. I'm actually surprised to look at the index stats on the year and see that Noah Hannafin is above average versus league average defenseman in DK points per 60, shot attempts per 60, and points per 60. Now, part of that's just he's on a good team, so like he's in a better position. But if you'd asked me, it'd have been like, yeah, Noah Hannafin's like a literal net zero, and he's like actually been okay. So I might reconsider like leaving Hannafin off if I'm stacking Vegas, just because, again, like I'm gonna lose anyway if Vegas only scores twice. Like I'm just gonna lose. So if they score 5, you're probably gonna want to have Noah Hannafin. So
yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, no, I
stack or nothing in Vegas.
Yeah, if you want to, again, like it's the Aaron Ekblad situation again. It's like, if you one off Noah Hannafin because you're like, I got to get some exposure to Vegas. You're losing to all the people that if he gets there, you're losing to everyone that went all the way.
Right. We did it. We went longer than the Donkey Trio, which is really just incredible. Shit, I missed me getting absolutely buried in the chat.
I did respond.
Boots is broken, throwing cold water on Gunther and Cutter in a span of 10 minutes. Will he be able to love again? I'm cutthroat. I'm cutthroat when it comes to saying what I think. I'm in pursuit of that money. Never forget that. Always be grinding. Yeah. I will throw whoever to the wolves in pursuit of that prize.
Many call him the bad boy of DFS for a reason, and it's because of moments like this. You know what I mean? Yeah. He's not here trying to.
I'm not here to make
anybody. No. He's the bad boy of DFS, as he's well known. I will go with my first stack of the night. I've already mentioned it a bunch of times, but you know what? I haven't said it correctly. My stack of the night is not the Carolina Hurricanes. It is the Carolina and/or Hartford Whalers, as they will be donning the Whalers jerseys tomorrow. The Whalers narrative, I am going to just put it out there in the ether that it's going to be Aho, Rantanen, and Jarvis as you had it. I think they're probably going to put Rantanen back with Aho. I would be shocked if that's not the case. The Brass Bonanza plays over and over again as the grave of the Buffalo Sabres opens and finally claims them for the last time. And we can stop the nonsense of what if they win 20 of their last 26 games that they're not going to do, by the way. Give me Rantanen, give me Aho, and give me Jarvis or Svechnikov, or in reality, Jackson Blake, like whatever it is. But I'm stacking through Rantanen.
Okay. All these options. I am going to go back to the Florida well. I think this was my top stack last show as well, but I'm just going to go Bennett, Sam Iskevich, save a bit of money, and I'm going to add on Sam Reinhart to that. I think he's the best option on Florida. So $6,900 for Reinhart, supreme discount. I think Sam Bennett and Sam Iskevich for 9.6K is a very good mini stack, but I'm just going to make it a full Florida stack for me.
Yeah, no, that is the correct answer of how to do it. I do think though, when I'm playing this stack that I'm going with, I'm actually going to game stack it because it's affordable, and I'm actually going to say give me Dylan Cousins with Quinn at the very least. I did see that got very little run with Dahlin, so I don't think I'm going to go there. It didn't get a lot of run at 5-on-5. You're only getting Quinn on the power play, and that makes me a little nervous about it. So I'm going to not go Dahlin, and I'm honestly going to say I think you could play anyone here that kind of fits, but for sake of completeness, I'll just throw in Greenway for now. And it's on the road, so maybe it won't matter as much. It seems like last game they had a pretty concerted effort to have Dahlin with Tage as much as possible. just when you're making that final decision. I mean, maybe you go with Owen Power, right? Like that would be actually probably the answer there. Just play Owen Power at 4K.
Yeah.
So yeah, we'll throw in Owen Power.
Yeah.
Whole game stack.
I mean, I'm glad I underconvert to the Dylan Cousins, Jack Quinn, Jordan Greenway trio because I
think that I think that's the way you do
it.
it. Like, how do you force Carolina into winning the slate? And I think that it's because they can't stop the puck, right? Like, and all of a sudden, Rantanen goes for 6 shots, Aho 5, Jarvis 5, and like they score 4, and it ends up being this, absolute bonanza.
When you get, I mean, you did nail it. When you get Carolina down by multiple goals early, though, they're just guaranteed to all get a bunch of shots. We all learned that on Tuesday.
And who gives up goals when in the lead more than Buffalo? And they said it's fixed. I mean, they after the game, like we used to screw this up. Now we're doing it against other teams, and it's like you did it against Anaheim. But again, let's not break it arm jerking off ourselves too much here. You beat the Ducks at home.
Quack quack.
Okay, what's your other stack?
All right. I am going to do a Vegas power play stack. I'm going to go Hurdle, Dorofeyev, and Noah Hannafin. I'm making amends.
Yeah.
We all can agree, even Noah Hannafin, that Chicago is just so bad that we should be stacking against them. So let's take Dorofeyev, Hurdle, and Hannafin. Going to cost you, roughly 18K? I can live with that. Yeah.
Where we guarantee the goals.
This is where we guarantee the goals.
We do that. I will. God, there's like 3 teams. You know what? I went first for stacks. Do you have a guaranteed goal to start with?
I am going to go with Lucas Raymond. Guaranteed goal, 7,000 DraftKings dollars.
Okay. Let me actually fix this. See, I was looking at Cole Caulfield. That was sort of my guy, but I feel like he's like the same exact price. I don't know if that's going to make a big difference. It is 6,900. I'll go Caulfield, and you go Raymond, and then I'll let you go first again, so then I don't steal your guy. So you have how much left again? Your guy was 7.
Yeah, I have 4K. Let's see. I'm gonna grab Freddie Gaudreau. He's a guaranteed goal for me in the top 6, playing a bunch of minutes for Minnesota. Just a player that I've liked for a while, and so just another cheap punt, maybe even a mini stack with him and Hinostroza. But Freddie Gaudreau's getting that goal, maybe even of the empty net variety on Thursday evening.
I was like, why didn't you take this guy? And then I realized he was in your stack. Like Sam Miscavige is the obvious take here, but we'll be brave and we won't do that. I honestly can't remember his exact price, but I'll take Duclair. I think he's 39 or
38 or something.
38. Duclair is probably the other guy there that makes a lot of sense. Like I know it hasn't been perfect, but the role is massive, and obviously he can't score. So I think that's going to be another interesting one against a Boston team that gives up quite a bit against. I think we kind of did good here.
I mean, we did horribly considering it's been 102 minutes. But hey, you're not signing up for concise takes when you listen to the Moin Escape podcast. So let's see. Well, where does that leave us this weekend? I don't know what your weekend plans are, but
I don't know either.
Okay, well,
maybe Saturday we can talk.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. We'll see about Saturday, but we've got a nice. We've had a nice run this month and a half. If the Four Nations did something, it makes almost every day a playable DFS slate, especially on the weekends. So, looking forward to this little run. But just the best place to keep an eye out is Twitter and in the Discord. If you're not in the Discord, the easiest way to get in there is to DM us on Twitter. So just make sure you're following us at Moin Escape Pod. I am at Fake Moods, and DJ is at DJ_Mitchell94. I have my newsletter, moods.bf.com, which I've mentioned a few times now, but I'm working on a playoff contest simulator to look at last year's Zamboni results. So no slate write-ups for the next week or so while I work on that, maybe longer. But that is my nights and weekends at this point, just trying to build something that's usable to teach us, how to draft Zamboni teams over on Underdog. So that's been a fun experiment. It's been very frustrating, but I'm looking forward to whatever I come up with, and you'll be able to find that on my newsletter. So make sure you subscribe there. DJ's Dub Club.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Oh, keep going. Keep going.
No, DJ has his Dub Club. If you like betting, he will send you basically push alerts or texts or emails or whatever you prefer via Dub Club to get in on that action. It's free. He's not one of those sportsbook influencers who's peddling horrendous picks at a huge premium and using whatever screenshots to make money. Like, it's not trying to make money off of you. It's just more convenient than tweeting and hoping that people are just rapidly updating Twitter. So anyway, DJ, what do you want to say?
Oh, I don't even remember now. You were saying nice things about me. I got lost. I forgot. I was gonna say, if you need your Zamboni coverage, right now I think the only person doing it is Davis Maddock. That's the only person drafting Zamboni teams, and being like, he's like, does this Mark Scheifele guy play with Kyle Connor? And it's yeah, you muted yourself. I don't know what happened there. If you can't unmute yourself, I'll just close it out. You seem sad. There you are.
I don't know what happened.
You sound horrific now. I can't even understand you. This is the great ending. Okay, so with all that being said, now that Matt's turned into a robot, I believe, I guess I'll close this out. So from Matt, from Doug and myself, and from our friends Mike and Matt who joined last time, have a good Thursday, everybody, and we will see you.